There have been many reports online in various forums of people with shaft-driven water-cooled boxers having failures of their drive shaft. The universal joint tends to become loose, and then it gives up and it fails, and there's no serviceable part on the drive shaft. So when that fails, you've got to replace the whole drive shaft. As a matter of fact, when it starts to exhibit some play in it and improper operation of that universal joint, you're supposed to replace the drive shaft, and it costs about $1,200 to do that. Of course, if you let it go for a while without fixing it, it can break and cause you to be stranded on the road or worse. BMW does not recommend, or it does not have as part of its maintenance schedule, the servicing of this part or the checking of the splines or anything like that. And that's kind of interesting that they should do that. So a lot of people have been taking it upon themselves to actually pull the drive shaft, check the lubrication on the splines, check the universal joint for free play, and and then making their decision as to whether to replace or whatever. I have never done this on my bike. My bike has got over 50, I think it's about 55,000 miles now, and I've never done this service on my bike. So my drive shaft has never been pulled or anything like that. I'm going to attempt this for the first time today, and if successful, we should have it all back together, all lubricated and checked out and everything, and hopefully there's no play in the universal joints and I don't have to replace that drive shaft. The repair essentially involves removing the back wheel first, displacing the brake caliper here, hanging it up out of the way, the power lever arm as well, hanging it up out of the way, and then pivoting this final drive downwards about this pivot point, I guess. And that should expose the rear spline connection right here. We'll take off this boot. This boot has never been disturbed since manufacture. So we're going to see how that held up all this time. So we're going to remove this, and then with this down, we should be able to go to the front here and expose the front connection to the engine output shaft, and then somehow or the other pry the shaft, the drive shaft that is on the output shaft, pry it off, because there's a retaining spring clip or a ring that is on the spline itself, on the male part, and pry that off and then pull the whole thing out. So that's the theory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove everything, remove the back wheel, and then I'll get this brake caliper off and the power lever off and hang it up out of the way. This here is the molybdenum disulfide alloy paste. As you can see, it's a BMW purchase, and this is what you're going to use to lubricate the splines at the couplings. So you need that. And then you also need to get something like this, silicone paste, dielectric grease, waterproof. This is what is used to seal those rubber gaiters against the drive shaft housing. Although the Haynes manual never mentioned that you had to drain the final drive housing, just be aware that when you take the speed sensor off from the rear of the rear hub, that is bathed in oil, which means that if you don't drain the final drive oil, you're going to have a leak coming out of that hole. So this job also includes draining the final drive oil. This is the dimple magnetic plug, and what I'm going to do now is try and see how much filings were in there. If I can film and do this with one hand, probably not so easy. but the oil came out beautifully. It was in beautiful condition, I should say. And as you can see, there's just a little bit of blackness there. It's not a heck of a lot. Let me go and clean it out a little bit more and show you some more. As you can see, it's pretty clean in there. And like I said before, there were no metal filings, just blackness in the drain plug, in way of that powerful magnet inside there. So I'm very pleased with the condition of the oil. With the wheel off, the next thing to do is to displace this and the power lever and hang it up underneath here somehow. Okay, so to take the brake caliper off, I believe you just got to undo these two bolts. Good time to inspect the brake pads. As you can see, I've got a good bit of meat there, the wear slots right there, not down to the 1 millimeter wear limit, so I'm happy. Slight wearing more on the inside than the outside, but I'm not bothered by that at all. So this is good. Remember I mentioned hanging my front brake calipers using these nice big long rubber coated twist ties. They're great for this job as well. So the next job to do, or the next thing to do, is to remove this nut, and then this whole final drive would want to slip down. Now we're going into uncharted territory here. I've got to get something to support this underneath here. So I'm going to go ahead, get that support first, and then undo this nut, and hopefully I'll be able to show you what the result looks like. So I've got this supported by my little floor jack and a block of wood there underneath the disc. And then I'm going to withdraw the last few threads off of the power lever bolt. There's the Loctite right on the end. So we're going to have to clean that bolt up and apply some more Loctite before we actually reinstall. Before I drop the final drive down, let's pull this off and see the condition that is in. I think you should just be able to pull this off like that. And as you can see, it looks pretty dry. Just a little bit of dust all around. That looks quite nice actually. And I think maybe that'll come with the rear. But I loosen the front here so that we don't rip it. We don't want to rip this thing here. So I'm going to lower the jack and see how it goes. Now the manual doesn't say how to orient this coupling here when you're lowering the final drive, but I think that with having this axis here horizontally, the end here, this part here, the coupling part that is on the attached to the final drive, will be able to pivot downwards as this final drive pivots downwards. So you don't want it the other way around, you know. And just to show you, this is how you just turn the disc, the brake disc, until you get it oriented like that, and then continue dropping the rear down. Okay, first problem of the job. The joint here between the coupling and the final drive is stuck. And as a result, when I drop this back end, it pulled the shaft forward out from this connection. So at least I don't have to worry about that connection. But the thing is how to get this separated from that. That is the problem now. So let me fight with this a little bit more. Well, I can tell you that that is not coming off. I'm going to have to remove the whole final drive. I'm going to have to take this off and then remove this pinion here and remove the whole final drive and then draw it out and then free it up somehow or the other. But my guess would be that the front spline is probably nicely lubricated and in good condition in terms of lubrication, and that's why it came out so easily. And this one has got some rust on it. That would be my guess. But so the job has got a little bit more complicated now that I got to go remove this final drive. As you can see, there's no ring there.